it is a day to reflect on the sorrow, I think, experienced by Aboriginal people and communities. So it's vitally important for our services to be safe places for Aboriginal people, for that healing to happen. But I think more importantly for our services, it's about being able to hear and listen and bear witness to the grief and loss that Aboriginal people have experienced, both in the past and currently. I think from our service perspective, it is an absolute commitment from our staff to educate themselves on the experiences of Aboriginal people and to ensure that our services are culturally safe. I think from a broader perspective, I think we all share in the responsibility to ensure that we're engaging and vigilant around any practices that may impact on the health and wellbeing of Aboriginal people. And I think, and that we do actually acknowledge that Aboriginal communities hold many of the keys to healing trauma. They're probably much better versed than we are in terms of connection to culture, connection to family, connection to the land, which latest evidence demonstrates is what heals trauma. I think from a personal perspective, I think we all hold a responsibility to make sure our children are educated around what's happened to Aboriginal children and families in the past, so that history is never repeated. That we are committed to working alongside our Aboriginal staff and Aboriginal clients to make sure that we heal together. So I suppose in terms of educating our own children, I think it's important for them to recognise the burden that Aboriginal families and communities have had to bear through no fault of their own, and for all of us to acknowledge the remarkable resilience and strength and courage of Aboriginal communities and families to continue to want to make Australia a better place.
As a team, we were looking at ways that we can actually reflect on the stolen generation, the trauma and grief and loss that they suffered, and which has been embedded not only on the stolen generation but our current generation as well. We as a team do acknowledge and accept Australia's dark history. We believe that we can move forward together in healing the journey for our community and working in partnership with the Aboriginal community, and also sitting and listening and respecting to the Aboriginal ways of healing. So looking from an Aboriginal healing framework, which looks at the worldview from an Aboriginal viewpoint. And we as a team really do believe that that's the way forward, and we really want to sort of accept the past, and we want to move forward with our community, and we just hope the community would sort of stop and listen and respect us as workers as well, so that we can change our future. That is important as well too, and we just want to respect that and really sort of encourage people to actually sort of sit and reflect. The Aboriginal words for a lot of that deep thinking is dari, where you really sort of sit and reflect, and the overall view of an Aboriginal worldview is kanini, which incorporates the whole of things around life, belonging, ownership, country, and that's what we look at from an Aboriginal worldview, is that Dari and Kanini. So if we can get that together, look, we're going to live in a perfect world from there on in.
National Sorry Day means a lot of things to me. It shaped who I am and how I came into this work. I remember hearing the stories about the stolen generation when I was a later teenager, and being impacted by this in many ways. Knowing that these stories were true stories of people in our country, and that these were the experiences that they had endured, impacted on me profoundly. The injustice that I felt has been the energy that's helped me step into this work as a non-Aboriginal person and focus on supporting healing wherever I can. In my years of training as a non-Aboriginal healthcare worker, around healing and what helps healing. When I think about Aboriginal communities and the legacies that still endure from the stolen generation, my core belief is that there is no better place for healing than communities. For people going back to their communities and the healing power that sits within connection to culture and land. It's hard to think about reconciliation alongside the ongoing legacies that still remain for Aboriginal communities from the stolen generation. However, I pledge my ongoing commitment to support Aboriginal people connecting back to communities and cultures as a non-Aboriginal healthcare worker as my part towards reconciliation.
I just wanted to share really quickly just a memory that I have around Sorry Day, and that was back in when I was working in the Northern Territory. I was living in remote Aboriginal communities, and I went into Alice Springs to listen to Kevin Rudd giving the apology to Aboriginal people for the stolen generation and the impact of that on Aboriginal people. Personally for me, it was probably one of the most moving, emotional times of my life. We were watching it live myself and some other Aboriginal colleagues were watching it live, and what really came to me was the actual visual impact of seeing actually just outside of Parliament House at the time, just Aboriginal people there, just sitting with hope and expectation. That was part of that. Inside in Parliament House with Kevin Rudd, there are a number of older Aboriginal women that were sitting there, and as Kevin Rudd began to talk about the stolen generation and acknowledge that it happened, the camera then focused on the Aboriginal women inside, and all I could see was just tears rolling down their faces. Went outside again, looking at the people outside Parliament House, and tears were just rolling down their faces, and myself and other Aboriginal colleagues that were there, before I knew it, I was just crying with them.